Well, hello, Adam.
Hi.
Welcome to Age Domains Tuesday.
Oh, I'm just going to turn my volume up because I turned it down there. How's it going?
Very good, thanks. I think it's fair to say we have absolutely no idea what we're doing. I think already my mic, you're coming through my computer instead of through my headphones. That's a good start.
Technical problems. Hey, Michael. How's it going?
So I guess we can talk a little bit about, what the hell we're doing. Like I said, we don't know what we're doing. We've got some nice graphics, though, so it kind of looks like we know what we're doing a little bit, right?
Yes.
So we've got this. Woo! Look at that. So, just to talk a little bit about kind of what the plan is for our live streams. We're going to have 3 a week, essentially. First one, Age Domains Tuesday, which is today. So today we're going to cover, for every Tuesday, we're going to cover a topic to do with age domains. Today it's going to be how to 301 redirect domains the right way. And then we're going to talk, we're going to take one of the domains from our inventory and kind of take the audience through some due diligence on like how we carry out due diligence on domains and actually walk through one that we've got in our inventory right now. And then we've got some questions that were sent to us ahead of time from the audience that we're going to kind of try and cover off. And then any FAQs that we have, from the audience during the course of the show. Then Wednesdays, we've got the Niche Lifestyle Show, which we're going to co-host with Alex Cooper from WP Eagle and Doug Cunnington. And the way that we're going to do that is it's going to be the same show every week, but we're going to rotate it on our channels. So first week, tomorrow it's going to be on Alex's channel, Alex Cooper, on WP Eagle. And then it's going to be on Doug's channel the following week. And then the following Wednesday, it'll be on our channel. And we're going to rotate it every week. So same show, just a different channel. And then on Thursdays, we're going to have the website investing show, which is going to be a little bit similar to the Age Domains show, in which we're going to cover a topic about website investing. We're also then going to kind of take some kind of FAQs and be quite kind of relaxed kind of show. But the niche, what I should mention is the Niche Lifestyle shows is kind of more generic. It's kind of about making money online, what it means, what it's like to live the lifestyle of making money online, and it'll just be more of a free-for-all Q&A kind of questions type thing. So should be fun. Adam and I feeling very nervous moments before this, thinking, my God, what are we doing? And probably still thinking that. But I'll get my headphones working again shortly. And but in the meantime, Adam, 301 redirecting age domains the right way.
Yes.
What have you got to say on the matter?
So one of the questions that we had kind of pre this call, I think is quite relevant to start off with. And the question was from a gentleman called Rick, and he basically said, how much extra or how much more are you willing to pay for an expired or an age domain that you were going to use as a money site to build on versus a domain that you go in to use as a 301 redirect? And the answer is it's the same. Like you should pretty much be looking for the same kind of quality domain to redirect to use as a 301 redirect as you would to build on your money site. And part of the topic that I put together for today is basically the 301 redirect domain should be as solid as your money site, and you should go through the same process and the same vetting process and hold it to the same standards as you would for any site that you were going to build, for any domain you were going to build your site on. So just like quickly rattle off a couple of things that you should look for or on your money site or a 301 redirect. And that's first one is look for trademark issues. Very important. Make sure there's no future issues around trademarks. Clean anchor text profile, really good backlink profile, traffic history. Make sure it's got some traffic history, or in some cases it doesn't need to have a ton of traffic history. Topical relevancy. So this one is really important when you're looking for a domain to redirect in. It's got to be relevant to your main site. There's no point redirecting a site about football into a site about birds. It just, even if the backlink profile is amazing and everything else checks out, it just doesn't make sense. And then the last point is just making sure that all the kind of the third-party metrics check out. So, you know, we can look at Ahrefs and their UR and DR. We can look at Majestics and their trust flow and citation flow, etc. Just making sure there's no obvious red flags. So just to cover that point to start with, the domain, when you look for a domain, you should always be looking for one that's just as good as the site you're going to build on.
Yeah. So how, when it comes to searching for or working out if a domain has a trademark issue, how do you go about that?
Yeah. So basically, you can use the website called.
You want to share your screen? No.
Well, the website is really boring, but it's basically uspto.gov, and it's basically the US trademark. I will share my screen actually and show you an example. Let me pull that up here. So, share screen. Cool. So hopefully you can all see the trademark database here. And this is the website. So it's uspto.gov/trademarks/search. And then you click this little search trademark database. And then in here, then you can search for basic word marks, word or design search, word or design search freeform. But essentially, this is the easiest one to use. You pop in here and then you pop in whatever you're looking for a trademark for. So, you know, if I'm looking for a trademark on my own name, I don't even know if it's going to come up, but this is a bad example. There's tons of trademarks for Adam Smith, Asif Laboratories, and all the other stuff. And you can see in here that they are live. And if you click this, you can go into it and you can see exactly what the trademark covers. So this one is financial analysis, etc. But what we're looking for when we search for domains are either to find no trademarks, or if there are trademarks, at least that they are dead. So yeah, that's quickly how we look at that.
Yeah, so I think the other thing is worth mentioning is that like it's not always cut and dry. So you might find some trademarks, and you might read them, and being that they're not in normal language, it might be difficult to understand whether there's an infringement on trademark there at all. So that becomes a problem if it is things like Adam Smith or keywords that are very common. Then you'll get a load of trademarks, and it's quite difficult sometimes to figure out if there's an issue or not. If it's something more obscure, then sometimes you can find that there's just no matches at all, and like you're pretty much going to be in the clear at that point. However, you know, we're not legal advice, and like should you got any doubts at all, you know, you just want to make sure you get some legal opinion on that, because the last thing you want to do is spend a lot of time, a lot of money building a site to find out you've got a trademark issue down the road. Sure, you can move that content somewhere else, but you know, that's just set you back like a number of months by doing that. So yeah, we want to avoid that.
I think just to point out on that one, that the domains that we find and we vet, basically, if there is any ambiguity, we just leave it alone. Like, we don't want any part of that. If there's anything live or anything that we don't understand, then we just pass. It's one of our major red flags. We like I say, we just don't know enough about. We're not lawyers. We're not infringement experts or patent experts. So if there's any issue at all, we just leave it alone.
I think that's the truth for pretty much any of our criteria, right? If it fails on one, it needs to fail once. We don't there's no such thing as like an amber flag. It's like it's either it's in or it's out. So on that note, then, so you know, when we're looking at the anchor text or you know, the keywords that it's ranked for in the past, like what sort of things are we looking for?
It'd probably be best to keep those questions for when we go through the hour, because I can literally share my screen and show you. But
that is true.
I guess we'll probably go into like the way that we handle the 301 redirects, like the process. Because I do believe there's a right and a wrong way. And I do see people talking about, oh, I redirected a domain and it had no effect, or the opposite, I redirected a domain and it had a bad effect. And I think sometimes it's either to do with like the source of the domain, like it's not a great domain they've redirected, or they've just implemented it wrongly. And in our opinion, the worst way you can redirect a a domain into your main site is literally just 301 redirect into the homepage. Like, it just looks so unnatural. Another business would never acquire another business and just redirect everything to the homepage, not talk about it, not create any kind of content on their site. So if you're thinking about, it's the easiest way. I see why people do it, because it is literally the easiest way to redirect. You just set it up and set up the redirect. But if you're thinking about doing it, then spend the time and effort to do it the right way, which basically is what we're going to cover next.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so the first step that we look at is to set up what we call an acquisition page on the main website. And the acquisition page basically talks about the main website acquiring the redirected domain. It's almost like a small public service announcement, basically, that your site has acquired this other site. That's what the first kind of opening paragraph typically is. And then usually below that kind of opening paragraph, there'll be at least 1,000 words, usually longer, almost like a skyscraper piece of content. It's very generic on the topic. And then that piece of content should include as many internal links through to your existing content as possible. So that's the first step, is to set up that acquisition page, get that piece of content created, and put it live on your main website. The next step then is to check and identify for any old posts on the redirected domain that you'd like to keep. And I don't just mean go to way back and get the content and put it on your main website. I mean, you don't do that because you don't own the copyright to the old content on way back. And then have those posts recreated on your main site. So you've got almost like a mirror copy of the posts you want to keep. And it's quite subjective when you determine what those posts should or could be. But basically anything that you feel is hyper relevant to the website that you've got, and also has lots of individual referring domains. And we'll have a look at one of the reports on the domain that we go through in a bit, on the Ahrefs best pages by links report. And you can identify, what those pages should be and whether you should consider recreating them on your main site. Once you've got those set up, redirect the individual posts, if you've identified any, to the new individual post, so literally page-to-page redirection. You can do that with a plugin called redirection, and set up the page-to-page redirects. Every other post, page, or homepage, like everything else that everything other than those individual posts should then be redirected to the acquisition page that we created. And then once we finish doing that and setting up those redirects, we always recommend that you push out a press release to say that your main site has acquired the other site. And you can use two different sources for that. One is web20ranker.com, or the other one is 38digitalmarket.com. Both of those are great. And basically, it's just a very basic press release. And then that's it, essentially, in terms of technical process. And really, the whole idea behind it is to mimic the way a real business would acquire another business. They would create a page that talks about the acquisition. They would already probably have content. If you don't have content about the topic that the domain is in, they would create it, and then they would internally link through it from that acquisition page. And then they would almost definitely put out a press release and kind of shout about the acquisition. They just spent money acquiring this other business. They want the world to know. So yeah, it's all about trying to make it look as natural as possible, following those processes if you can.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, so how do you decide which, what pages are worth recreating versus what pages aren't worth recreating?
Yeah, so it depends on the domain, to be honest. Some domains will be really clean. And what I mean by that is like 98% of the referring domains will be going to the homepage. And in that case, there'll be very few pages you probably want to recreate because they don't have many links going to them. You may make a decision that you want to recreate them because the content is topically relevant to your main website. So that's one kind of scenario. Or the other one might be, you might have a domain that has a good chunk of referring domains going to the homepage, but then you also have a good chunk going to individual pages. And in that case, you have to build a plan of, am I going to recreate or redirect those individual domains? And again, it comes down to recreating content you feel will add value to your website, and redirecting the URLs where you don't want to create the content because you feel it's not going to add value.
So is there a middle ground between, for example, if it's got one or two links, is it worth redirecting to, either an existing page on the site or to a category, for example? Is there a middle ground there?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely the option, basically. If you don't feel like any of that content is relevant and you don't want to recreate it, then the next step would be to try and redirect it to a category page, or ideally to another post that's related. It's not the same, but related. If that's not an option, to a category page. And then like the last chance saloon is to the homepage. But you don't really want to do too many to the homepage, I don't feel, if they're not relevant.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Awesome. And yeah, I think we've kind of got that covered. I think for the most part.
Yeah, I guess
yeah.
there is another option that I see people using, and it works. But I'm yet to see any solid data that it works better or worse than the method I just explained to you. But it just takes more time, and that is to take the redirected URL, set it up as a full website, add 10 to 15 pieces of content, leave it sit and get indexed for a couple of months until that content's indexed and ranking, and then move that content over, and then do the exact same process where you move the posts page to page, set up an acquisition page. The only difference being you've tried to make it indexed first and get it ranking, and then move it over. But like I said, I've not seen any data that suggests it's better or worse. I think it's just a different method.
Yeah, I guess it'd be good to hear from others if they've got any examples of kind of stuff that they've done. I'd be really interested to see kind of data like that. That's nothing that we've specifically done. We've seen it work both ways, essentially, haven't we? And but yeah, great. Okay, can say hi to a few people. So, Birdie, hi, how you doing? Use the functionality here, Hi guys, hi. So from Michael, welcome Michael. Who else have we got here? Chris. How do you? Yeah, there you go. This is slick, huh? There you go. Taurus as well. Okay, so I think just don't drink water and present at the same time. All right, so I think we can move on to kind of the domain that we're going to review. And the domain we've got currently just literally hit our website within the last hour, called Esports Integrity, one that we've recently picked up. Before we jump on to getting into that, just want to remind people to like and subscribe so that we can kind of get some more traction kind of on these on this channel, and hopefully do more of these if they become popular. So please like and subscribe if you can. So the domain, Esports Integrity. Tell us a little bit about it, Adam.
So I'll share my screen because that's going to be the easiest, and then I will kind of do like a basic overview of what we look for and like our thought process when we were looking for this domain. So the first thing to look at is I'm just literally looking at the top line metrics in Ahrefs. So it's a DR44, 400 referring domains. It's still got some pieces of content or some posts indexed. It's got still got three keywords according to Ahrefs. So it's from the bat, we know it's a fairly authoritative site. Like I say, DR45, 413 referring domains, and we'll go through a couple of what those domains are because there's some really high authority and really relevant domains in there. So what is this site? What is Esport Integrity? So the first thing we do is we pop it into Wayback. We can see this site goes back to, it's got some history here, but it wasn't really a site here. It's just been picked up for some reason. But it was mainly launched in 2016. So it's kind of like coming up 5-6 years old now. And when we have a look in Wayback, we can see that it basically is the mission statement is to be regarded a recognized guardian of the sport and integrity of esports, and to take responsibility for distribution, prevention, investigation, and prosecution of all forms of cheating. So essentially, it's a website that talks heavily or was heavily involved in esports and e-games. And that topic has exploded over the last couple of years. When I was doing some research, I was shocked to see some of the prize money for tournaments for esports. We're literally talking in the tens of millions prize money for esports now, which was I didn't even realize was that big. But you can see here, and you know, this is in 2018, so literally like a couple of years back, some big sponsors. So Intel was a big sponsor, a couple of other big sponsors here. And there's also, and I'll show you an example of a site, there's also quite a big link between esports and betting. It's one of the ways that one of the competitor sites that we identified is monetizing. So this is interesting as well, that it partnered with some big gambling sites, so Betway, Sky Bet, the Gambling Commission, Nevada Gambling, Gaming Control Board. So basically, it was a site that was all about esports. And then we can see here right at the end of its life cycle in 2021, before it was dropped and wasn't renewed, basically they made a new website. They moved the website over to esic.gg. Now, what's really interesting is, I don't know who did the move or the migration, but they didn't set up any redirects. This site was never redirected into their new website. They literally made the new website, pushed it live, and then just didn't renew this one, which I find is crazy, but you know, that's what they did.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's never been redirected, and essentially it came up for auction because they didn't want to renew it. So when we have a look, when we start kind of like doing a deeper dive, we look at a couple of different things. So the first thing we look at is the anchor text. So I've gone into anchors on here, and I've ordered it highest to lowest referring domains. And what we're looking for basically here is a nice clean anchor text profile. And what I mean by that is at least the first couple of spots to be the brand name, whether that's like the full brand name, Esports Integrity Coalition, or like the acronym, or like this, or like this, or the URL. So what this just means is most of the websites that link to this are linking to it in a brandable way. What we don't want to see here is, you know, best e-games for under fives, or any kind of evidence that there's been manipulation of either building shady links, or something's happened here where they've built lots of links with the exact same anchor text that doesn't look very natural to Google, essentially. So this just looks natural. This looks the way that someone would be linking to the website. Announced on Wednesday, you can imagine somebody's linking to it based on that. About us, someone's linking to the logo. It just looks nice and natural, nice and clean. And as we go down, there's nothing else in here. What we definitely don't want to see in here are anything to do with like porn, or another big one I see is like jerseys, or Jordan Airs, like replica stuff, or anything like that, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've got anything else to add on the anchor text there, Mark.
No, I think, you know, I mean, occasionally you do genuinely have the odd article that is above the branded anchor.
Yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning that. Like, just if one inverted commas went viral, then or just ended up getting a lot of links for whatever reason. I think it's just you don't want to see too many of them where it's clearly, you've clearly that's done happened in an artificial way.
If you ever do see that, what I would always recommend doing is to click the details here on the anchor text, and then the referring domains, and then because I've opened this up a while ago, but if you maybe I'll do it when you refresh it, and you do referring domains, you'll see the link, all the websites that have linked to it. And then if you click this, you'll see the snippet of what they've linked to it for, and it'll be quite clear if it's been manipulated or not. You'll see, like, I mean, it would be hard to get msi.com to link to you without, like, you wouldn't be able to manipulate that, essentially.
Yeah.
So that it would look natural that way.
Cool. I mean, a domain like this that's this powerful, it's unlikely that you'd find an anchor it shouldn't be an anchor that's more than the branded.
Yeah, exactly.
It's when it's a weaker domain that can happen.
The next thing we'll look at is the referring domains. And again, what is it from highest to DR rating down? And this has got some really high authoritative domains. We've got Medium, The Guardian, The Independent, Vice. And as we get a bit further down there, we've also got really niche relevant ones. So we've got like ESPN.com, PCMag.com, Mimecast, Engadget.com,
Crunchbase, Wired.
Crunchbase, PC Gamer, Game Sutra, GameStop, Game Industry, like all above DR80, like just all those links just there above DR80. So this just gives us an idea that the referring domains are really strong, hence why it's a DR45, just because of the quality of referring domains that it has. So in this case, what we're looking for basically are two things. One is, are there really high quality editorial domains to it, such as The Guardian or Medium or The Independent, where they kind of like, they're just very high editorial type links. And if you see these, that's great because they're hard to come by. It's very hard to get these links to your website. And then the other thing we look for then is niche relevance. So, and ideally, if you've got niche relevance and really high authority, then that's great. And in this case, we've got both. We've got really high DR niche relevant domains. We've also got really high editorial type domains as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to add on that one, Mark?
No, I think that's about it.
Cool. Next page I'm going to look at is this best pages by links. And this is what we were talking about, like how do you decide what pages you want to recreate or redirect, or how you're going to plan that out. So if you order this report highest to lowest from referring domains, in this case, we can see that 153 and 111 and 25 of those referring domains all go to the homepage, and 15 here. Now, in this case, we've got a couple of pages which have lots of referring domains to. So this looks like it was a piece of news from 2018, which basically announces a 5-year ban for one of the players for cheating. Got 36 referring domains. So in this case, we've got two options. When we do our keyword research, I'm assuming there's going to be a page around gaming and esports that talks about cheating. I saw when I did some of my research, there was something like, toxic gaming communities, but there's also pieces of content around cheating. So rather than recreate an old piece of news from 2018 that's not really relevant, we would probably look to see if we could redirect this URL into a new page that talks about cheating in general, like the high level topic. This one right here is older again, from 2016. Coalition launched with Ian Smith, appointed as the first esports integrity commissioner. So in this case, we could have just a very basic page that talks about esports integrity. There's still a website. We can link to the new website, just a little bit like, what is esports integrity? And we could redirect this in so it's nice and relevant. This one right here is about cheating. So we'd go to the cheating page. The About Us would obviously be our About Us page. And basically we would carry on working down here until we get to 5 links or above. So anything from here on upwards is where we would look to see if we can try and recreate those pieces of content. Anything from 4 or below, we look to see if we can redirect them into an existing piece of content or a category page, essentially. So this one's quite nice. There's not a ton of work to be done. There's probably a handful of pieces of content up here that we have to decide if we're going to recreate or not. And then from there, we just need to come up with a little plan for these down here. And you'll see lots of them are the same. So we've got anti-doping, anti-corruption, code of conduct. So lots of these you'll be able to group together into small groups if you want to redirect them. But this just takes a little bit of planning. And in this case, it's not a ton, basically.
Awesome.
And then, by the way, I can't see the screen now, Mark, so I don't know if we have any comments or questions about this, but I'll just keep on going. You can shout as we go.
Yeah, no, I will do. Yeah, nothing specifically on this right now.
And then in this case, the site used to get some traffic. So there was traffic and these big spikes, I believe, when like those news articles hit. So like that one from 2016, and then the other news articles which was kind of like big news in the industry. So you'd expect a big jump in traffic there. But essentially, this website was very basic. There wasn't a ton of content on there, and it was more of an informational type website around esports integrity rather than you wouldn't expect it to have got thousands and tens of thousands and that kind of traffic. So when we look at what the keywords used to be, we have a look in organic keywords, and I'm just going back to January 2019. If we have a look in the US, what we're doing here from a due diligence perspective is we're going through here and we're just making sure that none of the keywords in here are anything to do again with like porn or to do with like anything dodgy, basically, because sometimes it might have ranked for keywords and then you might not be able to pick that up in the anchor text. Yeah, so all this looks natural. It talks about Counter-Strike Go, code of ethics, like risks of esports. It's the kind of keywords you would expect a website that talks about like the integrity of esports to be ranking for, basically.
Yeah. And I think for this and the anchor text, we generally go down through the pages. Of you can find something deep further down. Something that's not. Yeah, you can find stuff further down the pages. Right, might not be sitting there right at the top of the keywords or the anchors, but go through the pages a little bit and just check all the way along to make sure there's nothing untoward in there, as Adam mentions.
For sure. Yeah, that's it. And then the other thing that like we use SEMrush, basically SEMrush organic traffic chart goes back a lot longer than Ahrefs. So you'll see Ahrefs goes back to 2016, but SEMrush goes back further. And this is just, it's not handy in for this domain because the site was only live after 2016. But in some cases, it's really handy to see what was happening pre-2016 that you can't see in Ahrefs. And you can't get out the same kind of data from it, but you can see, did it used to get massive amounts of traffic and then it dropped off? And then you can go and investigate a little bit more and way back. What was the site back then? Why do you think it dropped off? Was the site rebuilt? Was it redesigned? Anything that could indicate to piecing together the puzzle of what might have happened. But in this case, there's nothing really to look at pre-2016 anyway. So, so that's it then. So like I say, way back, just another point that you mentioned there, Mark, is I've only got 3 open up here to show kind of like the life cycle of a couple of partners, lots of partners, and then closing. But when we do our due diligence, we'll open up multiple instances of every year just to make sure that it's never been repurposed for a short period of time as well. So just want to point that out, that you should be doing a much deeper due diligence in here than just opening up 3 tabs of 3 random years to see what's happened. You should be checking every year, a couple of instances.
Yeah.
And then basically on to like, what's the opportunity? So this is an interesting competitor I found in the space. So it's called Esport Bets. And from the homepage, you would imagine it's all about betting on the sport. And when I did some research, it turns out that betting on esports is it's grown really quickly. It's like an emerging market almost for esport betting. As esports get bigger and more popular and the prize money gets more, then betting on esports is getting more popular. So this side I feel is a bit ahead of the trend. We'll see when we have a look at the keywords that there's definitely search volume for people searching on how to bet on esports. But I don't think it's not like mainstream betting yet. So now might be a great time to get into that. So this site is slightly stronger in terms of DR. They've got way more referring domains, but that doesn't, I think lots of these, if you look at the referring domains, they're those like spammy, I can't think of what they're called, like keywordresearchtool.com or something like that, keywordresearchtool.info. They're just like spammy scraper sites. That's what I was looking for. And I think anything to do with betting, you're always going to attract those kinds of links anyway, just naturally. So while it's got a ton more referring domains, the actual DR is not much stronger. The site's not a ton stronger, I don't think. And then when we have a look at the types of content it's got, it has lots of guides. So even though on the homepage it looks mainly about betting, it's mainly guides around, what the different ranking tiers mean in esports, or who the top Fortnite players are, for example, like a listicle article, basically, who the best players are for certain games. This type of content is really easy to create. It doesn't require like an in-depth technical knowledge of the space or anything. So this is great. This just shows that you can get into this space with kind of like listicle type, not very high level articles, basically. So how much is Ninja worth, etc. how tall is your Overwatch character, like all that kind of stuff. What's interesting is they are also ranking some of their bet pages. So, for example, we can see here the 12th most popular page is Call of Duty, and it's ranking for Call of Duty bets, which gets 800 searches per month. And if we look at that page, basically they are best Call of Duty betting sites. It's like a commercial piece of content that's pushing people towards sites where you can bet on esports. And then we've got like it's essentially a buyer's guide, how it's played, and then Call of Duty betting, like a little bit of information around there, and then again latest odds. And what I noticed on some of these, you can actually use, they've got like JSON files you can pull in these latest odds if you've got the technical knowledge or know-how or want to do that. And we think that's super important because you've got a table at the top. But I then got me thinking, like, how much do these people pay? Like, what's the affiliate setup with these guys? And I checked a couple, and it seems huge. So, for example, they link into Cyberbet, and they have a rev share up to 50%. So, whatever anybody bets, you get 50% of that, which is crazy, essentially. And then they've got Bit Casino, which also has e-games in there, esports, and these guys offer up to 45% rev share. And you've got Thunderpick, which offer up to 50% rev share. So even though it's still in its infancy, and for example, Call of Duty bets only gets 800 searches per month, you don't need many people to sign up when you're getting a 50% rev share.
And that's for life as well. It seemed like your revenue.
I think so.
Yeah, the first one you said for life, and that would be the same as normal betting sites as well. Yeah. Where was it? I saw it somewhere. Oh yeah, at the top on the graphic in the middle, in the yellow graphic.
Oh yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean normal betting sites offer that kind of thing where it's just for life as well. So yeah, that is awesome, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think the potential for earnings from just the betting side of things are massive. What's interesting is these guys don't have any display ads on there. They've put the banner ads of like these programs on here. So it would be interesting to see, like, does this convert? I'm assuming it must convert more and pay more than like if you were to put something like Ezoic on here or something, just due to the rev share. So in this case, it might be the case of all this informational content is here just to show these badges. But I think they can do a better job. Like all their advertisements are in the sidebar. They've got no in-content adverts as well. Yeah, so I think you can do a better job if this was our side or your side, then I definitely think you could do a better job of placing these adverts and these banners better within the content to make more money, essentially.
Cool.
And yeah, that's basically.
This is the problem. I want us to keep this domain now. This is what always happens, right? We want to keep every domain that we find. That looks awesome. Yeah, I love that. Also,
yeah, so Michael's just asked the question there. So why won't esports claim it back? And the answer is they've moved on from that domain. They didn't even redirect it. I've seen websites where they'll move from one domain to another and redirect for a little while, and then they'll just let the other domain go. But essentially, it's a business decision. They feel like that other shorter domain is more brandable, is more rememberable. And we're not recreating the same website. Our website's not going to be specifically about esports integrity and catching cheaters. It's going to be about esports, but it's not going to be the same topic. So in their mind, they've just given up on the domain. They're happy with their current domain, and there's just another site popped up on it.
And if there's no trademark, then they can't claim it. They can't request it back either. So
exactly.
Okay, let's go through some of the questions that we got in advance of today's show. We've got a few more that have come up during the show. We'll tackle the ones that people sent over in advance first, because they'll be useful. So I'm guessing this is the same guy, Michael Dale. I'm guessing that's still you, Mike. So age domains versus expired domains. Is there much difference between them? If yes, what?
Go for it, Mark.
So yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that people use these terms interchangeably. There isn't really much difference, because someone will use the term age domain, someone will use the term expired domain, and the reality isn't that much different. And I think everyone has their own different interpretation of like what an age domain is and what an expired domain is, if they view them as different in any way. I think really what it comes down to is an age domain is something that hasn't expired, hasn't sat around at any point in time. It's literally aged, and you can kind of maybe pick it up and then repurpose that, and therefore there's been not much downtime. Whereas an expired domain, a little bit like the one that we've just spoken about, the person's kind of given up on it, or they've just let the domain drop. How long it has to go before you call it expired versus, I mean, if it's been dropped for a day, do you call that you picked up an expired domain or an age domain? Like, yeah. So I think it's just interchangeable in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. So when you get an expired domain, do you just register it and then 301, or do you fully make it a live website and then 301?
Yeah, I think we covered that off earlier. Essentially, I think both are legitimate strategies, but we don't make it live first.
Yeah, these are all Michael. We have plenty of questions up front. When you use 301, we've done that. We've done a good job then. Where do you look for aged domains? I see expired domain sites, but not aged. So yeah, so we pick most of our aged domains up from our partnership with Otis. So you'll see that if you go to nichewebsite.builders, which is our website, and go to the domains section, you'll find that domain for sale that we've just spoken about. But you'll also find that we've got a partnership with Otis. So the vast majority of domains are from Otis. We kind of handpick them even from Otis though, to try and cherry pick the ones that we think have got the best opportunity. But yeah, mainly from Otis. Otherwise, occasionally a handful from GoDaddy. That's where we've always picked them up in the past. We just run them by Otis as well when we pick them up to make sure they're happy to kind of put their name against them too. Okay. What is the best way to collect old pages from Wayback Machine? So, I mean, I guess so. There's a tool, I guess, if you're looking to actually pick the pages up as they were and kind of download them. I can't remember. Do you remember what the name of the tool is, Adam?
I'll find it. What are you talking? I'll find it.
Yeah, it's like if you just type in download Wayback Machine pages, something like that. There's
Archivix, Archivix. I don't know if I've completely butchered the pronunciation of that. But,
yeah. What did you search for in Google to find it?
Oh no, I didn't. I searched for in my inbox.
Okay. Yeah, but it comes up most of the time you search. It's pretty much the only tool. So you can download like an entire site in one go with that and pick it up. We just what we would say is that just don't upload articles as they were and as they used to exist. Potentially there's copyright issues there because although that domain doesn't exist anymore, someone went about writing those articles and you're essentially copying them directly at that point. And I think we always find there's opportunities for improvement, or most of the time there's opportunities for improvement of any articles anyway. So take that opportunity to make it a refresh and write the article from scratch. So yeah, we don't tend to do that a lot, but it can be handy, that tool sometimes.
Also, just on that one, if you guys want to follow along with one, so basically every week when we keep a tracker of interest in domains or age domains, and we'll probably over the next couple of weeks talk more about some of these interesting ones we've looked at and what they've done. But there's a good example of one where they took they got the domain, they took the whole website from way back and just recreated the whole thing. And the rankings have come back, but not fully. And also, I think it's going to be interesting to watch to see what happens. Do they turn it into a WordPress site? Because I think it's still HTML. Will it get taken down because the old owner sees the content and says, hey, hold on, that's mine. And if you want to follow along with that, the URL is hollyscheatday.com. So HOLLYSCHEATDAY.com. And it's not what it sounds like. It's about cooking. Basically, it's Holly's cheat day. He's cooking a cheat meal for the day.
Yeah, I like it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Do you have a rough formula that you use to estimate a value for age domains? This is Rick again, Rick Zulo. The answer to this is this question was a bit longer, but we can only fit so much in on this piece of software. But essentially, we're saying, is it more of a feel thing, or is it a metrics thing? The reality is, it is kind of a more of a feel thing, and you've got to kind of look at that backlink profile and just see how good it is. The one we've just shown is a lot of very high authority sites, which would be very hard to recreate, which explains why it's such a high DR. So there's lots of different factors like that, and looking at his past and how well it fit for any future, looking at the anchor text, all of those kind of things. But we do kind of work to a baseline, I guess, a starting point, and then we go lower or higher depending on how well the other stuff starts. So for every, and this is really as broad, right? Because DR is just a metric that's made up. It's not Google approved or anything like that. But what we say generally is $100 for every DR point is a kind of a good starting point. So if something is a DR10, maybe $1,000 is a good price. But then when we look at pricing it or deciding on what we're going to pick it up at, if it's good, a good DR10, then maybe you'll have to pay a little bit more. If it's not so good DR10, then maybe you'll pay a bit less. But also, what I'd say is that at the lower end, so say it's only a DR5, you might not want to pay $500. You might only want to pay $300. But at the other end, if it's a DR40 or a DR50, or maybe you'll be happy to pay $6,000-$7,000 for it, because depending on the backlink profile that it's got. So,
and DR not linear as well. So like going a DR5 to a DR10 is the same as a DR40 to a DR45. So
yeah,
it's exponentially harder to get.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it works more for that middle, I guess, that kind of 15, 20 to 30 is kind of that. Yeah. And then as it goes up, you kind of don't want to pay exponentially for it. What I'll also say is that our view is that these domains are massively underpriced anyway, like age domains. Like for what it would cost you in time or money to get the backlink profiles that you see with a lot of the age domains that we pick up, would cost you way more, like in time or money, than what you're paying for them at that kind of rate. So we think the market for age domains is only going up. The prices are only going up, only going to go in one direction, and they have done even in the last couple of years that we've been working on sourcing age domains for our clients. The prices have been going up, and I think they're going to continue to go up. So right now, I think that most age domains are just a bargain compared to what you'd pay for links in other ways, whether that's time or money. So that kind of price. I mean, most of the time I'll happily pick up things and pay much more, knowing that what I'm getting. And what you got to think about as well is the time to revenue. When you're working with an age domain, generally you get there faster. You get traffic faster. You start getting paid faster. So you're getting paid back than you're getting paid back for that domain that you've paid for. Like way faster than if you started from a fresh domain where you might not be getting paid for 6-12 months, depending on how long you're sitting about in the sandbox period. Cool. Let's have a look in the chat. I've got a couple of ones saved here. So Mr. Russell is saying, age domains, beginner friendly.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as working with a fresh site. Well, I guess it depends on if you are going to try and find the domain yourself and do that whole vetting process yourself. In that case, I would say it's not beginner friendly, because there are lots of nuances and pitfalls that you could get, stumbling blocks while doing that due diligence that you might miss as a beginner versus if you've seen lots of domains. So if you're looking for them yourself, probably not beginner friendly. But if you're going to use a service like ours, or a marketplace like Otis, or even if I know it's probably I don't know if now is the right time to say that we're just about to launch a new service where we vet your age domain. But if you find one and then you want us to vet it for you, as long as you get the vetting done right, the rest of the process typically is the same as building a normal site from scratch. So it is beginner friendly. You just got to make sure you get the right domain that hits all the right metrics, passes all the right vetting. And then from then on, it's just like setting up a normal site, essentially.
Yeah, and making sure that the domain you pick up, you build a site on it that is equivalent to the domain that you picked up, or that it's going to work with the domain that you picked up. Yeah, awesome. So this this is a legal question, really. So this is to do with the trademark. So when does it become an infringement? Who knows? Like, I mean, I can't. When you look in there, you'll see things like terms like word mark or
design mark.
Design mark. So if it's word mark, then you probably can't use the domain and those words. Sometimes you see the domain actually not that often, but sometimes you see the whole thing trademarked. So if it's like adamsmith.com, that will be the trademark, even with the .com. Like, I think if you're getting to the point where you're looking at, is this an infringement or not? I'm not sure. That's when you need to get legal advice, I think.
Or just pass, just don't buy it to start with.
Yeah, yeah. If it's blatantly not blatantly obvious, yeah, just get legal advice or pass. But it depends how good the domain is and how much you want it, I guess. So cool. So I think that is most of the questions, unless any new ones came in.
A quick hour as well. I didn't realize we've been live for an hour. It's been
50 minutes.
50 minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the only other thing before we close off, as I mentioned, is that we're going to have a section here. We quite often, when we're looking to pick up H domains, we're constantly looking at the auctions, and we occasionally see domains that, we look at domains and we don't win them, or we find domains that are interesting, and we just stick them into a list, and then we go back and refer back to them at a later date to see what people did with them. And it's quite can be quite amusing to see like what people have done with their domains back in time, but it's also good just to track, how successful was that domain once it went further down the road. But people do some weird and wonderful things with age domains. So we're going to pick up the odd age domain from our lists from time to time and review them and see what happened to them. So that we can share with you some of the ones we missed out on, but like what people did with them further down the road. So
just to give you an example of one of them, was a website about James Bond, like there's a James Bond wiki, and I had a forum attached, and I was really surprised because it went for way over $3,000. So it was an expense. Someone invested a decent chunk of money into it. When doing the due diligence, I clearly saw that the forum had been completely and horribly spammed with like pharmaceutical and sex type posts. Clearly, no one was managing it, but all those got indexed, and then the anchor text profile had them in there and all kinds of stuff. But someone saw at least a $3,000+ value in there. So that was only added recently. It'll probably take a couple of months for us to see what someone does with it. Things like that are just really interesting.
Yeah, so we'll come back to that in a couple of months' time on the stream and see what happens. But anything else to add before we go, Adam?
No, I don't think so. I think that's all good. It's
a wrap. Okay, well, thanks for everyone that tuned in. Thanks for engaging and asking questions. Hang on, we've got one more. Before we go. Let's have a look. What is the average return on investment on age domains if we take full service 100,000 words from niche website builders? You go for it.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. It's a really frustrating answer. Like, I get asked this question all the time. It depends. Expired domains are typically a great way of just shortcutting the process, but they're not like they're not a magic bullet. Then it's not going to be, I'm using an age domain, therefore I'm going to get a rich overnight kind of thing. You still have to put in the same time and effort and resources that you would grow in a normal site from scratch. The only difference typically is, when it works right, is that the time horizon from start to first traffic to first revenue is shortened. That's typically, that's it. That's the benefit you pay for. And also, you start at a point of authority rather than starting at a point of no authority. There are a couple of other nuances typically with expired domains. I think everyone's familiar at the moment with Google having indexing issues, especially with new websites. What you typically find with an age domain is you don't have those issues, or not so many of those issues, because it already has a history and a past with Google. And if you go into Search Console and go to settings and crawl data, you can literally see the budget the amount of data that Google spends when it crawls your site. Typically for an age domain, it's a lot higher than a fresh domain. So, but All that goes back to say the ROI really it's the same as what it is on a fresh site. You typically just see your return a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I think sometimes you'll see one that takes off, but you can't predict it up front. Sometimes it'll just we've seen it. We've talked 100 times about some of the case studies that we've got where I talked to recently, was on Doug's channel talking about one of my sites, also one of our customer sites. Sometimes they do just take off, but and you get results you'd never get with a brand new domain, like at any chance. You just don't know. You just don't know which one it is and when it's going to be. But I guess the way I look at it sometimes is the more irons you got in the fire, sometimes you're going to get like an outstanding one every now and then. But yes, it's definitely not a silver bullet. It's the real answer. Yeah. Okay. Thanks again, everybody. We'll call it a day there. Please like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. It'll get us in front of more people. We can do more live streams. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.